into helping those miners and other workers in the fossil fuel industry and rebuild those communities that have been hurt by the loss of fossil fuel jobs. 5, what we have got to do is recognize what every other country on earth, major country, industrialized country, is doing. How many countries are there, major industrialized countries in the world, that do not guarantee health care to all people? Anyone know? You got it. There is one country. Jane and I, Jane, stand up. That's my wife, Jane. All right. We live in Burlington, Vermont. We live 50 miles away from the Canadian border. It ain't a big deal. Everybody in Canada, the children, the elderly, the rich, the poor, everybody has health care as a right. They've had it for decades. They spend substantially less per person on health care than we do. I had to take some people from Vermont over the Canadian border 20 or so years ago in order to buy prescription drugs, because the cost of prescription drugs in Canada are far lower than they are in the United States, where we pay by far the highest prices in the world, while the drug companies make excessive profits. So I believe, and I want you all to think what it would mean, not just the McDowell County, but this whole country, if we had health care as a right for all people. All right? One out of 5 Americans can't even afford the prescription drugs their doctors prescribe. That's pretty crazy. So we have to lower the cost of prescription drugs. Now, education. I grew up in a family, did not have any money. My mother, my dad never went to college. And there are millions of families, and Sabrina was talking about this, where the kids don't have parents who ever went to college, and they can't even dream. The idea of thinking about going to college is almost beyond their comprehension, right? It's like going to the moon. It ain't going to happen. I believe that in a changing world where the economy has changed, we need to understand that public education is not just first grade through 12th grade. That's what we've had for decades. That's pretty good. But in a changing world, we need to know that today a college degree in many respects is the equivalent of what a high school degree was 50 years ago, which is why we need to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And I don't want anybody to think that this is a radical idea. It's not some big radical idea. It exists in Germany, it exists in Scandinavia, and other countries around the world. It makes sense for the future of our country that we invest in our young people. Sabrina mentioned, what, you're $30,000 in debt from student debt? All right, here is a young woman who is $30,000 in debt. There are millions, literally millions, 3-4 million people who are in debt. Talk to people who are $100,000 in debt. Doctor in Burlington, Vermont, $300,000 in debt. What was her crime that she committed? Did you go to Las Vegas and lose money? No, you went out and you got an education, right, which improved your life. Good for your community. All right, she should not be being punished for getting an education. She should be rewarded for getting an education. So there is a lot that the federal government can do. I'll give you one other example. There is only, again, one major country on earth that doesn't guarantee paid family and medical leave. You know what that means? It means right now in West Virginia, in Vermont, you're going to have a low-income woman, working-class woman, giving birth today. She, because she does not have enough money, will likely in 2 or 3 weeks be forced to separate herself from a newborn baby and go back to work in order to earn the income that she needs to take care of her family. That's wrong. A mom and a dad should be able to stay home with their newborn baby. If somebody in the family is sick, people should be able to stay home. We're the only major country that doesn't guarantee paid family and medical leave. And that's why I believe we've got to pass legislation currently in Congress guaranteeing 3 months paid family and medical leave. Now, I am often criticized by people who say, well, Bernie, all these ideas are great ideas, but they're expensive. That's true. We want to provide free tuition at public colleges and universities and lower student debt. Cost us about $70 billion a year. That's a lot of money. So how are we going to pay for that? Well, in that case, we're going to pay for it by imposing a tax on Wall Street speculation. Wall Street's greed and illegal behavior hurt this country enormously. Millions of people lost their jobs, they lost their homes, they lost their life savings. We bailed them out. Now it is time for Wall Street to help the middle class of this country. And the last point that I want to make gets back to the first point. If we were in Haiti right now, if we were in some poor, impoverished third world country, what we would say is, wouldn't it be great if we had a strong educational system and all of our kids can go to college, or a great healthcare system where we had a wonderful clinic down the road here with good doctors and nurses and low-cost prescription drugs? Wouldn't it be great? But in the poor countries, they say, we're poor, we can't afford it. Major point that I want to make to everybody here. We are not a poor country. We are the richest country on earth. And the problem is the policies that take place in Washington every single day are policies designed to help wealthy campaign contributors. All right, people who go to dinners for $350,000 a couple. Anybody here been to dinner lately? For $350,000 a couple making a campaign contribution? All right, anybody here put $1 million into a super PAC lately? All right, that's another world. But that's the world of Wall Street and big money interests who make huge campaign contributions and then hold the people they give those contributions to accountable to work for them. So now you have the insane proposition right now in Washington today, where you got many folks, mostly Republicans, who want to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to billionaires, the wealthiest people in this country. And at the same time, they want to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and federal aid to education. All right. So I think what we need to do, let me get a little bit political here, but I want to stay on the issues of McDowell County. The solution is that millions of people are going to have to get involved in the political process. They're going to have to stand up and fight back. They're going to have to demand a government that represents all of us and not just the 1%. That's nothing new. That's the way change in America always takes place. It is the history of the trade union movement. It is the history of the United Coal Miners Workers Union. People stood together and fought back. It's the history of the civil rights movement. It's the history of the women's movement, the history of the gay movement, whatever movements there are. The only way change takes place, people come together, stand up, and fight back and say that the status quo is not acceptable. And I think that's the moment we're in right now. So, I just want to thank all of you for being here, and I want to open it up to questions and comments. And if you got really, really hard questions, direct them to the people behind me. But I'll try to do what I want. Okay, please just be loud, stand up, be loud. Oh, we got some mics. Okay, you don't have to be. There's one mic. We got two mics. Okay, all right. Who's ready to break the ice and be the first? We got a young man right here. Just stand up and give us your name. You can hold the mic yourself. Yeah.
My name's Jackson Beria. Thank you, Bernie. I'm from Mercer County, the county over. I appreciate you visiting our state, campaigning in our state. I saw you in Huntington a few weeks ago. And I was wondering how you see yourself maybe in a future presidential spot, how you see yourself helping West Virginia, and how you see yourself bringing industry to West Virginia.
Good. All right, I think the first thing we need to do is we are going to target federal resources and federal contracts to those communities that need it the most. And my strong guess is that McDowell County is one of those counties that need it the most. All right? So when we talk about national priorities, it is not to make the rich richer. It is to eliminate poverty and provide decent paying jobs for those people who need it. Now, I can't sit there alone and say this is what McDowell County needs. You know those issues. That's what I want to talk today. And Sam raised a few ideas in terms of agriculture, etc., about where we can go. But that is the first promise. Changing our national priorities. For example, in my view, we should not be spending trillions of dollars on a war like the war in Iraq that we never should have gotten into. And then tell the people of McDowell County and counties all over America, inner cities all over America, oh, sorry, we don't have the money to invest in your community. Second of all, some of the programs that I talked about, trust me, it will make a profound difference in the lives of people in this county and all over this country if health care is a right. Can you imagine that? You don't have to worry about whether you can afford to go to the doctor. One of the things that I did as part of the Affordable Care Act, we got $11 billion into community health centers. Community health centers are now serving many, many millions of people. You walk in the door, it's based on a sliding scale basis. If you don't have any money, you get free health care, you get low-cost prescription drugs. We need to greatly expand primary health care, especially in rural areas. People should be able to get to a doctor when they need to get to a doctor. That will happen. If we pass a national health care program like a Medicare for all, it will have a profound impact. What do you think? And Linda might want to comment on this. If your kids know that if they study hard and they do well in school, that they will be able to go to college, because we're going to have free tuition at public colleges and universities. Will that play a role in their lives, do you think?
Absolutely. Thank you. I believe that it will allow them to dream bigger than they have ever dreamed. The kids in this county, Ms. Schrader kind of touched on that and everything, that, the kids in this county think that that's a far-off dream. And I've seen it. These kids, when they grow up, some of them say that they want to work at Walmart just like mom. But I think that if they have that option, if they know that they're not going to go thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in debt for an education, then we might be able to produce, the next Einstein or the next president of the United States from McDowell County.
Right. That's absolutely right. So those are the few of the things that we can do. But again, I want to say, not just for here, but for all over the country, it's going to be the local people who know their communities best. But it is obligatory, in my view, that when we have so much income and wealth inequality, that the federal government has got to change that and get that resources to local communities so they can begin creating the jobs and the opportunities that we need. Okay, other questions or comments? Well, why don't we go from side to side? Yeah, why don't you got a gentleman right there? Yeah. Or yes,
I'm
ma'am.
a lady.
I know. There was somebody behind you. I know that.
Sorry.
All right.
My name is Beth Sizemore, and I'm also from a neighboring county, and I'm the executive director of a really small nonprofit. And the focus of our services, it's called Reach Family Resource Center. And we have a lot of prevention services. We have a truancy diversion program, an after-school program, and a home visiting program for new parents to kind of intensive home visiting.
Great.
And I think they are all, like I said, prevention programs to get kids off to a good start. And I think in general in this country, we say, oh, children are our greatest resource and they're our future. And then when it comes time to balance the budget, that's who gets hit. And so I guess I'm just listening to the things that people have said today. I know that we have a lot of struggles with our infrastructure and creating jobs, but I would argue that serving kids and getting them off to a good start is really the solution to a lot of that stuff. That if our kids hit the ground running when they hit school and they can read at grade level, then we're going to prevent substance abuse and delinquency and crime and everything that our country is plagued with now. So my question is, if you had to prioritize children and children's services, where would they be?
Beth, thank you very much for your question and your comments. As I just early mentioned, there's just a United Nations report that came out that shows that we are disgraceful in terms of how we deal with our kids. 22% of the children in this country are living in poverty. And I would tell you that if our children are the future of this country, as they are, we have got to radically change our national priorities and give them the care and the hope and the help that they need right now. Now, let me just give you an example. I like people jump up, okay? Start off. We start off, a woman is pregnant, okay? Right now, there are efforts to cut the very, very good program, the WIC program. Now, WIC has been successful. It says if you are pregnant, you need good nutrition. Your baby needs good nutrition. We have got to expand that program, not cut that. We got to make sure there are communities in this country where infant mortality is far, far too high. All right? So starting even at pregnancy, we've got to make sure that pregnant women get the health care that they need and their newborn babies get it. Then you go to another issue. Tell me about this. I can tell you, in my own state, we're a middle-class family. Our daughter is middle class. 2 kids struggling to find quality, affordable child care. That an issue here? All right, so here's the reality. Mom goes to work. This is modern America, right? Mom goes to work. Dad goes to work. Well, you got 2 kids. You got a kid 3 years of age, kid 5 years of age, or 4 years of age. Can you find good quality, affordable child care? In most parts of America, you can't. And if you find a good quality of child care, it can cost you, depending on where you live, $20,000 a year or more. Well, how do you afford $20,000 a year for child care when you're making $25,000 or $30,000 a year? That's pretty crazy. So to answer your question, and you're absolutely right, in terms of investing in prevention rather than investing in the aftermath when we don't have good prevention, what do? All right, so kids go to school already 2 years behind when they walk into the first grade. Does that make any sense? It doesn't. We can create millions of good-paying jobs having well-trained, adequately paid, respected child care providers, right? Now, you do that. We put money into public schools. We take pride in teachers like Linda. All right, I know West Virginia is a big basketball state and the football. Pardon me? Tanya, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yo, Linda, I'm sorry. Well, we still take pride in Tanya. All right. But these are the heroines and the heroes of America. All right, I suspect, I could be wrong, you're probably not making a whole lot of money on that job, right?
No, not very much.
Okay. All right. But we need to tell our young people that teaching is a noble and important profession. And we provide the kinds of funding at the federal, state, and local level. That's investing in the future. I talked about making public colleges and universities tuition-free. Here is another example. I don't want somebody, and I know this is a problem, and I'd like people to talk to this problem. Nationally, we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. You all know that? The richest country in the history of the world, but somehow or another, we have more people in jail, 2.2 million people a year. You know what we spend locking up fellow Americans? $80 billion a year at the local, state, and federal level, locking up 2.2 million Americans. That gets exactly to Beth's point. So you got a kid who goes to the first grade 2 years behind. As Tanya was saying, these are kids who may come from homes where it's cold in the wintertime. They may not have enough food. They're going to struggle with education. And then what happens when they're in the 10th grade? They're going to drop out of school, right? Well, you know what? You drop out of school, your future is not all that great. So maybe you start dealing drugs. Then you get yourself in trouble. In my view, we are spending $80 billion a year locking people up. Maybe we take a good chunk of that and invest it in prevention, in jobs and education for those kids. So I think you hit the nail right on the head. from a humane point of view, from a human point of view, and even from a cost-effective point of view, it will cost less money to send a kid to the University of West Virginia than to lock him up. All right? So let's make sure that we can send them to the university. All right. Let me ask you all a question. All right, we're going to get to as many questions as we can, but I want to deal with tough issues here. We have in my state, and we have all over this country, an epidemic of opiate addiction and heroin addiction. Anyone want to say a few words about that? Yes, I see a woman right there. Oh, get the mic, grab the mic.
Hi, Bernie. My name's Carrie.
She can hold it herself. Let her hold it. Put the mic close to your mouth.
Okay. My name's Carrie. I'm from Mercer County, and I've lived in this area for about 10 years. And more I see people that I know and love falling to drug addiction. And it's especially bad in areas with such poverty, you know. My question to you is, what do you plan on doing? How do you plan on helping these people with opiate addictions?
Okay. I'm going to give you the answer in a moment, but I want more discussion about the nature of the problem. So what we're seeing here is opiate addiction. Okay, woman right here, ma'am. Right here. Yep. Hold the mic close to your mouth, please.
Okay. Most people know me. I don't have to. I'm kind of loud. My name is Marianne Glader, and most of the people know me because I fighting a battle that you've been fighting on the political scene, is running for state auditor. And I have a son that is addicted to pills and.
Addicted to what?
To pills. So he's addicted to like Xannies, Loratabs, and nothing that the doctor gave him. It's just that he hung around the wrong people, and which has caused me to get more involved with the juveniles in the detention centers, because he also went to jail and he has a felony. And we have so many people that are sitting in jail because of drug addiction. I also have a son that is paralyzed. And a lot of the people that I'm trying to get him to care for him cannot come and work for me because they have a felony that is drug related. They are so, I don't understand it. They've got to stop looking at saying that somebody has a felony and looking at and putting a drug conviction on them, because everybody that goes into that system, they'll say you had an intent to sell, and everybody does not have an intent to sell. But that's the plea agreement that they'll give them. And I just want us to look at these children that are locked up, look at these adults that have been locked up, and try to turn their lives around, because when they get out of jail, they have no future.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I want to stay for a moment. We'll get elsewhere, but I want to stay on the opiate or the drug addiction crisis, and I'm going to answer the questions. People have raised questions. I'll answer, but I want to hear from the community about drugs right now. There's a woman right behind you. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Hold that mic close to your mouth.
I will. Hello, my name is Dreama Paget. I am a CEO of a community action agency. And also the reentry and criminal justice system has hit home with me. Please stand up, Daryl. This is my husband, Daryl Paget. He did 20 years in federal prison for a nonviolent crime. Yes, a drug offense. He has a master's degree now. Can he get a job? No. What can you do to help people like us?
Okay. Thank you.
Good day, Senators. My name is Rocky C. I'm from War, West Virginia, which is just right across the mountain right here in McDowell County. Unlike a lot of folks here, I have the benefit of an education. I was able to go to college and ultimately law school, and I defend people, the indigent criminal accused of drug crimes all the time. And let me just say that every crime that we face in this community, from domestic violence to larceny of any kind to pretty much everything that we deal with is in some variety shaped by the drug problem here.
How severe is the drug problem in your judgment?
The drug problem here, in my judgment, is very severe. I would say that 90% of my clients are in some way addicted to drugs. Beyond that, it has touched my my personal life is that my mother died of a prescription drug overdose frankly, of medication that she was lawfully prescribed. So I see it as a professional, and I have seen it in my childhood. And so I suppose my question to you, Senator, is this, is that poverty is certainly an issue here, but it seems to me as a person who lives and works here that the drug crisis fuels the poverty here because people have an addiction. And let's be serious about something for just a moment. Addiction is a disease. It is not a crime. But because people are afflicted with the disease of addiction, it prevents them from being able to find good work. It prevents them from being able to provide for the families. And it seems to be a continuing cycle of blood. Right. So that when one person's parent is affected by that, it makes it more likely that they themselves will become addicts, that they would themselves become felons, and thereby unable to contribute to their community in a positive way. And it seems to me that I'm only 30 years old, but during my entire lifetime, it seems that the people that I went to school with became their parents, and now their children are falling into those same cycles. And it's not necessarily by any fault of their own. It is because they are sort of swallowed by a system, an awful system that's so much bigger than they are. And so I suppose my question is simply this, is what can Bernie Sanders as president do for those poor folks?
Okay. Thank you very much for your statement. All right, I want to stay on it, and I'll try my best in a moment after we hear more to answer all of the questions. I think we have, what do we got, a woman right there? Yeah, just give her the mic. Hold that mic close to your mouth, please.
Hello, Senator Sanders. My name is Rebecca Hicks, and I'm from right here in McDowell County. I am on the brink of changing my life as I have received acceptance to an Ivy League institution with a $268,000 scholarship.
Wow.
However, there are several hindrances we have not acknowledged yet. There is more to receiving a higher education than merely covering the cost for it, and you have proposed that we improve our Medicare system. But I cannot be satisfied with that answer because it is the pharmaceutical company that is facilitating the aggressive behavior that is promoting addiction in our community. How can I leave behind my family when I never know whether addiction will overcome and I will have a family to come back to at all? So I guess I ask, how do you propose we break the cycle here aside from health care, because it is the healthcare system that is promoting the addiction behavior?
Okay. All right. All right, that's Rebecca. Rebecca, is that your name? Okay. All right, Rebecca raises an interesting issue. I mean, all of these questions and comments are right on. I mean, you're raising, I think, the right issues, and I think what we can all conclude is everything is related to everything else. So I'll throw out this question. If opiates and all of these prescription drugs are out there, why are there so many of these drugs in the community in the first place? All right, I understand if I injure my back, I want some medicine, that's fine to take care of my needs, but how come, is that a problem that just a lot of these pills are floating all over this community? Okay, who wants to speak to that issue? Ma'am, let's get this woman a mic right here.
Hi, my name is Velda Johnson.
Hold it a little closer to you, ma'am.
My name is Velda Johnson,
Velda.
And I wanted to speak on a matter. I was injured in a car accident back in 2004. I went to a doctor for 13 years. For 13 years, he prescribed me prescription pain medication. If I had an addictive personality, I would be addicted today. He never tested my blood to see the levels. I mean, I would just go in, he'd say, how you doing? He'd write me a prescription, I would leave. Doctors are part of the problem.
Yep. Okay.
They're prescribing the pills, and then people are selling them on the street. I have a son that's...
all right, so doctors are prescribing it, and then people are selling those drugs out on the street.
Yes, they're not taking them, they're selling them.
Right. Okay.
What do you do? How would you hold the doctors accountable for prescribing those?
Well, we know we have a family circumstance. I won't go into details, but a family member of ours, same exact circumstance. She was in pain. She got addicted to the medicine her doctor over-prescribed to her, and her life was radically changed for the worse. All right, that's another issue. All right, we've got a lot of these drugs. Doctors are over-prescribing, and the pharmaceutical industry, the people who create these drugs, seem not to understand the consequence of what they are producing. All right. Let's stay on the drugs for a minute, and we'll get off to other areas.